Welcome to the Patreon NHL Ice Guys, a special free skate edition. Time to lace up those skates. It's a free skate, free-for-all edition of the Patreon NHL Ice Guys for Tuesday, October 22nd. I'm Ian Cameron, joined by Alex B. Smith, Andrew McGinnis. Yeah, we're on Patreon. Yeah, we have a subscriber base, which is just $10 per month for the best damn 7 days a week hockey betting content anywhere on the internet. But it's the same cast that you're familiar with, going back to the SBR days where we were in our first variation of the Ice Guys. Jimmy Murphy, who was part of that team as well, is with us and will be with us later in the show. He's taken the train back from TD Garden, that's morning skate, all that responsibility he's got to do with the Bruins playing the Leafs tonight. But glad you're with us, and we're excited to break down the Tuesday NHL card. Welcome to all of our regular subscribers and those of you joining us for our free skate show that aren't subscribers. We are happy to have you with us, and this is just our way of showing you what we're bringing to the table on a regular basis, 7 days a week. It's the NHL Ice Guys. It's the best hockey betting coverage you'll get because we break down every single game from a betting perspective, now right through until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned in June. We will be here with you guys every single step of the way, providing all of our plays, picks, recommendations, thoughts, opinions on every single game on the NHL betting board. So happy to be with you, and welcome into those of you that may be watching us for one of the first times in a long time. We appreciate you guys being with us on this day. Let's get some opening comments before we dive into this 10-game Tuesday NHL card. Let's start with Alex B. Smith. Alex, how are you?
Doing good. Yeah, I'm glad that we got the free skate going today. It's cool to have, like I said, people who may have heard of us over the years and haven't got to watch us, people who watch us back in the day that haven't signed up. Like I said, we've been rolling in these numbers, last season and in this season so far. All of us have been doing fairly well in our picks and our analysis, and we hope you guys enjoy this coverage and enjoy this episode today. And like I said, sign up for us, $10 a month. That's, less than a giant cup of coffee in some places. And, we got a whole lot of different information. I just updated the charts. I do goalie rankings and first period totals updated on the site. Those are for the subscribers. So you'll hear us quote and mention some of those numbers. And but you'll only be able to get those if you sign up over at patreon.com/iceguys for $10 a month.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing we're really emphasizing. We'll be posting more written content, articles. I do a weekly NHL article, which is included in the VSiN Point Spread Weekly publication. I'm finishing putting the finishing touches on that article after this show ends. So, and I'll be posting that every week now moving forward on the Patreon page as well. NHL games to watch. We highlight some of the marquee games taking place Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, later in the week, and give you some just initial gut reaction leans, ways I'll be looking to bet those big games, those big TV games, or those big matchups. Let's say it's a Colorado versus Vegas, or like tomorrow night, Pittsburgh versus Tampa Bay. These big matchups with bigger, better teams. That's really the focus of that article. You'll be seeing that from me every single week on the Patreon page moving forward. And the great thing is, if you want to subscribe, great. There's no pressure on anybody to subscribe. There isn't. We throw it out there. You know where to find us. If you just want to come in and join us for the free show today, that's fine too, because we'll be doing one of these every single month or we'll be making one of these shows free for the public once a month here with the NHL Ice Guys. One free show a month, just as a way to say, hey, we're still around. We're still doing this on a daily basis, and here's what you get. Andrew, what you get with him is a pretty damn good hockey bettor as well. Andrew, how are you today?
I appreciate that. And, it's been a pretty busy day, but it's been good. And, it's really nice to have this free skate, like you guys said, to see, first of all, a couple old faces. We're seeing a few new faces already stumbling in here, and I'm sure we'll see more as the show progresses. And, just a little tidbit that I'm going to say for everybody out there that's going to watch this and watching it right now. First of all, if you like hockey, you don't just like it, you absolutely love it. Anybody that I know that likes hockey, it's hard to be a casual fan of hockey. You're absolutely tied into it. You love it. You watch every game. You watch every team. If you want to see, a couple guys that get along pretty well together, that love to talk hockey, that give out their analysis, talk from a sports betting perspective, 1 hour a day, you can't beat what we're doing. I mean, this is us at relatively the same time every single day, getting together with relatively the same structure and giving out our picks, thoughts, and predictions and opinions. And of course, there's always some humor, some fun, some good times in it as well. So it's a great mix. It's a great blend. And so far, I've really been enjoying myself this season. Of course, all of us can't make every episode, but we've always tried our best to have a full roster and have a good crew when we can. So what better of a slate for us to have here, guys, than this massive slate we have here. And hopefully that's a pretty good segue for you, Ian, to get us started here with this Tuesday night card.
That's right. Let's get right to it. We got the Toronto Maple Leafs and Boston Bruins. We're, as always, every show, and we've done this right from day one, we go in rotation order, top of the rotation down to the end. And we start with Toronto taking on Boston. That's the first game on your Don Best sports options, whatever odd service you use. That's the game at the top of the rotation. Leafs taking on the Bruins. Boston minus 175, minus 180 home favorites, total 6.5 across the board. Rematch of Saturday night where the Toronto Maple Leafs got the better of the Boston Bruins, a 4-3 overtime win. It was one of those games where the Leafs got outshot, outplayed. Boston carried more of the play in that game Saturday night when they played Toronto, but at the end of the day, Freddie Anderson with some big saves, really good chances for the Bruins after they tied that game late. And then when overtime came around, the Leafs sort of regrouped. I thought were the better team in that 5-minute overtime, and they got the game winner. And then last night, I was worried about that spot for the Leafs, and I mentioned it on the show. I took a shot with Columbus at the plus price last night, saying this is a brutal sandwich spot for this Leafs team. You're going to go from playing a team you don't like, a team that knocked you out of the playoffs multiple times, including once again last year. You beat them. It was a huge win. And then you've got another game on the horizon against that same Bruins team tonight. And then in between was that Columbus game last night. And the Leafs got off to a bad start. Sloppy play. The shorthanded goal was an omen of things to come for the Leafs. It was just not going to be their A game. It was not going to be a game where you were going to get their best performance, their greatest amount of focus for that game. It was clearly on display right from the beginning. Give the Leafs credit for coming back from that 2-0 early deficit to take the lead, but Jackets tie it in the third period, and then they end up winning in overtime on a penalty shot goal in overtime for the Jackets to get a 4-3 win over the Leafs. So the Leafs doing Leafs things, unfortunately. Lack of consistency, some defensive blunders, and it ends up costing them yet another victory. And again, falling flat at home in an early week game in a very sterile, quiet environment. That place was very quiet last night, once again at Scotiabank Arena. And then, of course, against an opponent that you would think in theory they're better than, and they end up not getting the job done. This has happened time and time again with this Leafs team. That being said, they'll be up for tonight. They'll be excited for tonight. Mike Babcock trying to defend to the media yesterday. I found that funny, that why he's giving Frederik Andersen the weaker of the two opponents in this back-to-back situation. He put Frederik Andersen in there yesterday against Columbus and saved Michael Hutchinson, the backup goalie, for the presumably better hockey team, the tougher opponent in the Boston Bruins. But he says, I want to win that first game of the back-to-back. I don't want to throw my starter in there when my team's tired, and then we risk having a worse chance to lose that second game. So he's figuring, let's go after the first game, let's not be quite as rigid about trying to win the second game. And that's why he's gone to this theory. Works for him. He's justified it to himself, why he's throwing in Hutchinson in the second night of back-to-backs here in most of these spots, even against the team that's the tougher opponent. But he's done that again here. As a result, I'm on this game over 6.5. The Leafs have trended over recently. Even Boston. You look at Boston the last few games, they've been flying over the total recently. Few injuries for the Bruins of note, though, to make mention of. Yeah, it brought caused me to pause just a little bit in terms of this betting this over, but I still like it. They are obviously without David Krejci for this game tonight. Also battling a couple of depth forward injuries to Joachim Nordstrom, who won't play. Carson Kuhlman won't play. So you're going to see a couple of call-ups from the AHL for the Bruins to take their spot. But I still think Boston capable of finding the net, back of the net. They've been able to in recent games. And Toronto's defense and Hutchinson, 2 previous starts this year, 2 easy games going over the total, the Washington game and the Montreal game. Those were the 2 previous starts for Hutchinson this season, both of them going over the total. Wouldn't surprise me to see a third consecutive over ticket cashed with Hutchinson in goal tonight. Give me over 6.5 here. First official play, Leafs and Bruins. Alex, what's your take on Toronto-Boston?
I'm right there with you on that full game over 6.5. Like I said, we did just very odd with the theory of strategy with Babcock going with Hutchinson here for Anderson last night. I don't know if, like I said, is there a way that they're trying to test Hutchinson of, okay, if you can step up against the higher class teams, It's kind of, an extended kind of preseason thing of, all right, you've earned this spot now permanently as the number 2 goaltender. I would like to see that more so later in the year. I think Anderson, especially bouncing off of that loss that you had, wasn't exactly a complete shutdown of a game, but like I said, to lose on a penalty shot in OT, I would think Anderson would want to bounce right back and jump in and start in this game. And if I'm him, he's a veteran guy. If he really wanted to go up to Babcock and say, I want this game, and I want to start this game, let's, rely on me to lead you to beat this, a team that we're going to have to battle with in the division, a rival of ours, and bounce back after a couple of spotty games. That's the kind of thing I would want to see moving forward from Toronto. They have to, carry themselves like contenders. They don't really do that at times. There are times where they're just kind of, we're going through the motions, and then that's every team in the league. But you got to have some guys in that locker room and then that clubhouse step up and say, hey, we got to step up tonight, and it starts with me. Putting themselves forward first. So that's something I would have liked to have seen. And goaltenders have the power to really kind of do that at times more than other players. But that's not the case. We're not seeing it now. And maybe Boston steps up now, obviously losing that game on Saturday night, saying, hey, we haven't seen that Stanley Cup hangover from the Bruins that we expected at the beginning of the year. So now this is kind of one of those carry games where it's like, hey, let's beat this team and prove to ourselves that, we belong at the top of this division. We belong, and we're, the hype that's on Toronto needs to be on us. We were the team that, carried the East banner into the Stanley Cup final last year. It starts with winning these games tonight. So lean with Boston, but I like that over more. I think we're going to see goals on both sides.
I agree. Again, 2-0 to the over with Hutchinson in net. 0-2 Toronto with Hutchinson starting in net as well. They lost both of those games to Montreal and Washington. So I do lean Bruins too. Bounce back spot for them. They're rested. They've been off since that Saturday game. Leafs had to play last night, travel to Boston today. Certainly situationally, it sets up better for Boston than the Leafs in this game tonight. Andrew, what's your thoughts on Bruins Leafs?
Well, guys, I said at the start of the year, I thought that backing the Leafs team when Hutchinson was in nets would be a good call a lot of the time because they're going to get great value, but not against some of these teams he's being put out against. It's like we just talked about. You guys mentioned it. The way that Babcock is strategizing this whole back-to-back situation, it's very peculiar because if you look at it, you're banking so hard on at least getting the 2 points in that first game against the weaker team. But when instances happen like what happened last night when they end up falling and only getting the 1 point, it could have possibly have been no points, then it really backfires on you. They're going to come in fatigued, really, really tired, gassed up, disappointed. And sometimes the anger does not always mean motivation. Sometimes anger can lead to frustration and all kinds of different things. And we all know, like Jimmy said yesterday, the frustration and the horror town, the TD for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. If you look at it last year, this Toronto Maple Leafs team had a chance to close out their series in the opening round of the playoffs against the Bruins at home, but they weren't able to get the job done. They sent it back to TD Garden. We all know what happened there. And then, the series ended up going over in 7. So for me, when you look at this game here, you have to go over the total. I'm going to look at this one over 6.5 here. This is my lean with this game. You look at the Bruins, like Ian pointed out, they're scoring right now. They got some guys that are consistently getting out there. Pasternak looks like he is showing no signs of a slip up, of any type of lulls. He is out there. That top line is doing great, but that second line, again, I'll continue to say it, that second line for the Bruins is very under-talked about, because if you're a team that plays with Marchand, with Pasternak, with Bergeron, you're not going to be as talked about as much. But that second line and some of the guys in the third line can impress me on a night-to-night basis. I really do like them. And ultimately right now, with this team and the spot we're seeing here, you got to expect it's going to be everything flying at the net. Can we really get a good performance out of Hutchinson? I'm not quite sure yet. Should he be playing in this game, guys? I don't think so. Alex mentioned they're not carrying themselves like contenders. Here's a little quick rant for you. If you want to act like you're a team that's going to contend, if you want to build up this Toronto media, if you want to build up, your team and get all these signings, sign these players for $10 million a year, show some respect, show some class, show some work ethic, and try and beat some good teams, because ultimately you're not a good team until you can beat teams like Tampa Bay, which they lost 7-2 against, Boston, teams like that, Colorado even. Until you can beat the top tier teams, you are not a top tier team yourself. I don't care how many talented players, I don't care how many goals Austin Matthews finishes the season with. Until you can beat good teams and show up for the big games, you're not impressing me so far. So this is my message to the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. I will not back them here. I will lean to the over 6.5, but ultimately this game can go any way. It's a very interesting spot off the back-to-back, and I'm not going to force myself to make an official pick on it, but I wouldn't be surprised. You cannot bet under with this Leafs team. I mean, I know Ian doesn't like betting unders. You cannot go under with this Leafs team right now. We saw it happen yesterday. That game really slipped away, and all of a sudden it went over the total. So you can't trust this team to keep a low-scoring game.
Yeah, and I don't trust Hutchinson either at the moment to keep a low-scoring game. Of course, 5 goals allowed to Washington, 6 goals allowed to Montreal in his 2 starts. And right there, you get 5 or 6 for Boston tonight. Can we get 1 or 2 from Toronto? I would think so, and have a damn good chance to go over the total. So Leafs and Bruins over for Alex and I, and even Andrew. Not official for Andrew, but he leans in that direction as well. Next up, we've got San Jose and Buffalo. We've got Buffalo minus 110, total 6.5 across the board. I cashed a ticket with Buffalo in the first meeting between these two teams on Saturday. I believe Alex was on the Sabres as well Saturday night in San Jose. The Shark Tank. Sabres got it done, 4-3 win. It did bother me. I had that the pain in the pit of my stomach that, oh gosh, oh no, Allmark and net. Oh, I got a little worried once I saw that, but he did get the job done. And he, in the final minute, when the Sharks were really pressing to tie that game Saturday night, he was fantastic. So give him credit. You shut the door when the Sabres were trying to protect that 1-goal lead. I love the Sabres team. I love the way they've played so far. They're full marks for their start to the season, 7-1-1. And now they're going to have Carter Hutton in net, who has been nothing short of spectacular. He's back in net tonight for the rematch here against the Buffalo Sabres. He has been flawless so far for the course of the season to this point. Now, do I expect him to stay this way for the entire season? No, there's going to be some peaks and valleys, just like there are for every team and every starting goaltender in the NHL. But the numbers for Carter Hutton so far are absolutely scintillating. 5-0. Sabres haven't lost with him in between the pipes. 1.39 goals against average, .953 save percentage. 953 save percentage, 2 shutouts so far this season as well for Carter Hutton, playing extremely well at this point in time. On the flip side, I've never loved the San Jose team from beginning. I made the bold prediction they'd miss the playoffs. I still think they'll miss the playoffs. They're a very, very hard team for me to trust right now. I think they're a slower team. I think their forward depth has taken a hit with some of the losses they've suffered in the offseason. I think their defense is overrated a little bit with Karlsson, who's a defensive liability. I think even Burns' defensive prowess in his own zone has taken a hit, has gotten worse in terms of his ability to defend at a good level in his own zone. I mean, other than Vlasic, I think there's a bunch of blue liners you can do damage against. Brendan Dillon, slow of foot on that blue line. Just go on down the list. I'm not enamored with that San Jose blue line from a defensive perspective. And it goes without saying I'm not enamored about Martin Jones. Continues to be very, very spotty, very, very inconsistent. Not a goalie I trust right now at this point in time. This is normally a spot where I'm a little bit weary to go against a team that lost to the same team, and now they're playing them in revenge mode. But Buffalo is, I think, too cheaply priced here, in my opinion. They are. I think I like the price a little bit better Saturday with the Sabres, but not enough to stay off them completely here tonight. I'm on Buffalo again here, minus 110. Hutton hasn't lost a decision yet this season. It's been fantastic. He's got the edge, in my opinion, over Jones. This team's in better form overall. And we mentioned those 3 wins in a row for San Jose, all with an asterisk. They got outplayed by Carolina. They got outplayed in every one of those games. The Chicago win was with Chicago coming off the trip back home from Czech Republic. So all of these advantageous spots for San Jose, and they were outplayed in some of those games and were fortunate to win them. They lose to Buffalo, and I think they might lose to Buffalo again tonight. So I'm on the Sabres here at minus 110 in this game. Alex, what's your thoughts on the Sharks and the Sabres part?
Like I said the last time we talked, that I've been riding Buffalo against San Jose for years now, and I'm up well enough to where even with, like I said, the stretch a couple of years ago with San Jose had won 4 in a row, it's still worth backing the Sabres with. It's just one of those trends where it doesn't matter who the coaches, who the players, what venue. Buffalo has dominated the San Jose team, 18-2-1 at home in the history of the Sharks franchise for Buffalo getting those wins. So it's a relatively short price, and I think that's fascinating part of it. Now that was 7 straight wins, or 7 out of 8 wins now for Buffalo on the road against San Jose, and they were all underdog prices. Some of them as large as $350. And now you got, like I said, Sharks team not playing that well, going cross country, and we're only laying between $1.05 and $1.10. So got only way I can back this is going with Buffalo. And if we win this with Buffalo, I wonder next year if we're going to see the same thing. This might just be the gift that keeps on giving from bookmakers. I'll take it gladly with the Sabres.
All right, looking at Buffalo as well. How about you, Andrew? Sharks and Sabres.
Ultimately, when you look at this, these stats here and the standing numbers, 7-1-1 for the Buffalo Sabres, 3-5-0 for the San Jose Sharks. That's ultimately the decider right there. I'm getting -103 with the home team playing much better hockey on both ends of the rink. I'd have to go with the Buffalo Sabres here. I really like this Sharks pick. This Sabres pick, because the San Jose Sharks are inconsistent. On any given night, we don't know how many goals they're going to allow, how many goals they're going to score, which player's going to show up, which line's going to show up, and how their goaltenders are going to fare. We have seen the most consistency out of the Buffalo Sabres that we've seen in years. This team's averaging close to 3.8 goals per game. They're getting production not from just one or two, three guys. They're getting production from the whole lineup. And at home, this is a big spot here. I think Buffalo gets the job done. Like Alex said, they've dominated the series between the two teams, and I really am confident backing this team. So that's an official play for me on this video here with you guys. I'm going with the Sabres.
They play great hockey overall so far, Buffalo, especially at home as well. So Andrew liking Buffalo as well. We welcome in the fourth member of the Ice Guys, Jimmy Murphy. Finally got off that damn train, and now he's ready to go and joining us. Jimmy, we're just at the first two games on the card. We talked Toronto-Boston already. We're talking San Jose-Buffalo now. What you got on those two games?
I'll start with the game, obviously, that I'm going to be covering right here, guys. TD Garden right behind me here. I don't know if you can see it through the window there, but I still am baffled. And great call by you, Ian, last night on the trap game there for the Leafs. Just an idiotic move by Mike Babcock. And it's interesting, guys. I saw that link that you sent us, Alex, on all the coaches who could be fired first and the odds on who may be first. How's Mike Babcock not on that list? I mean, I don't think his time is long if they don't get it together in Toronto. I really don't. I think that him and Dubas have obviously always been on the opposite sides on how to do things, and there's a philosophical difference there, and now it's translating onto the ice. And I don't see that team buying into what he's selling right now. And just an asinine move by him to start Anderson last night, to waste that start and put Hutchinson in tonight. And therefore, give me the Bruins in regulation for this game. The only reason I don't do the puck line here is just because the Bruins are so banged up, but I do see them pulling out the win here. Give me the Bruins in regulation on that game. And then in the San Jose Buffalo game, everything Andrew said just makes sense. I love the Sabres in this. Jimmy Puckline goes to work on this one. Give me the puck line on the Sabres.
That's right. You're going to find that out very quickly if you are not already a subscriber of the Ice Guys. It's Jimmy Puckline, just as much as it's Jimmy Murphy, if not more. He loves the puck line and the bets, laying the goal and a half, especially for that big plus price return on investment. And he's doing that tonight with the Buffalo Sabres there at -1.5 goals, plus 215. Now there's a nice healthy price on the Buffalo Sabres laying the goal and a half. So -1.5 goals at plus 215 for Jimmy on that one. And we all like Buffalo in some form in this game tonight. All right, next up on the docket on this Tuesday night card. Again, thanks to everyone for joining us here. Pittsburgh, Florida. Florida -135, home favorites, total 6, shaded to the over, -115, -120. Very interesting game from a totals perspective here, because you got Pittsburgh trying to play a little tighter to the vest, a little bit better defensively, trying to make do with the injuries they've had, which finally caught up to them the other night. They finally lost a game, Pittsburgh, to the Vegas Golden Knights, albeit Vegas needed some kind of spectacular goaltending from Marc-Andre Fleury to preserve that win. Nevertheless, Pittsburgh finally loses the game. And I think now we could start to see, okay, they're playing. I'm convinced they were playing a little over their heads. With all these injuries, I'm stunned Pittsburgh won all those games in a row like they did. I think now they stubbed their toe finally for the first time with these guys out of the lineup. Bukestad, Malkin, Rust, Galchenyuk, all out of the lineup. They did get McCann back, but it's still a banged-up team up front in terms of injuries. Now that they finally lost, I think it could reverberate into another loss tonight. You're starting to see Florida pick their game up. I'm going to go with the Florida Panthers here. Almost debated regulation for a better price, but I'll just stick to the money line here. Figure it could still be a close game. Give me Florida here at -130. 2. Heritage Sports has the best price out there on the Panthers. After Pittsburgh finally had that bubble burst, I think Florida can get them tonight. And don't forget, Pittsburgh's got national TV tomorrow night in Tampa Bay, Wednesday night hockey against the Lightning. I think the Panthers, the better spot. And I think still the better of these two teams, and will be the better of these two teams in time. Give me the Panthers here, minus 132. Alex, what's your take on Pittsburgh, Florida?
I will take that shot with Florida in regulation plus $1.05 here. Like I said, this just screams like a kind of a letdown spot, almost in the same vein of Toronto last night. You look at, like I said, having Tampa Bay on deck, that's a much bigger game for the Penguins, where this is a Florida team. We often talk about where teams try to find spots where they can get their offense rolling. Well, this is a game for the Florida where they can try and really get their defense going and build some confidence on that blue end, build some confidence in net. Obviously, Joel Quenneville, he preaches defense, and this will be a game where, take advantage of a Pittsburgh team, like I said, that's missing some pieces, slow them down, keep them from scoring. So I also would lean with the under, but the play I do like is Florida plus 105. I think they should be able to get a home win here against the Pens.
That's a pretty good price, too. 105 with the Panthers to win in regulation in 60 minutes. Andrew, anything for you with Penguins and Panthers?
I'll tell you what, guys. I've had a tough time fading this Pittsburgh team recently. I mean, if you're not liking them, you're not making money, and that's certainly what I wasn't doing against the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins are 5-1 straight up in their last 6 games, 7-2 their last 9 against the Florida Panthers. So, as much as these injuries we thought would bother this Pittsburgh Penguins team, they certainly haven't, guys. I mean, they have battled the adversity. I hate to say this because we all know he can be a good player. Do you guys ever notice that whenever Evgeny Malkin goes out, they actually play good hockey? It seems to me
that's
they've
become a very, very, very odd little coincidence, and maybe it's not a coincidence.
They seem to come together.
To just kind of retort with that quickly, if you look back though at the years, they had so many depth forwards that could score. So losing Malkin, it was kind of easier to get that next man up. Where here, I mean, if let's just say if Malkin was the only one hurt, then you'd have a Brian Rust that could step in. He's not there. You'd have a Nick Bustad, who's a very good scorer, who I'm sure would have loved to have played in this game against his old team, the Panthers. He's not there either. So over time, some big names that have been injured off on. Patrice Bergeron kind of being another guy with Boston. I mean, that's the guy we saw suffer some injuries here and there and didn't really suffer too much of a blow when he was out a couple of games. So that next man up mentality, it's a little bit easier missing one star when you have other guys stepping up. But when you got 2, 3, 4 like that, everything kind of relying just on Sidney Crosby right now offensively, then it's a little bit tougher.
Yeah, no, for sure. But, ultimately this team is still scoring goals, but it's nothing crazy. I mean, there was a span where 2 games in a row they scored 7, but other than that, it's been 3, 2, 3 again, stuff like that. So I'm going with the under in this one, guys. 8 of the last 12 on the road for this Penguins team have gone under the total on this Florida team right now. They've been trending over, but I feel like the same way Alex feels, this is an opportunity for them to kind of preach a defensive style of hockey, for them to try and lock things down defensively, have a solid hockey game here against the Penguins. No need for every Florida Panthers game to just absolutely jack the score up. And if we can recall, Bobrovsky was brought to this team for a reason, for good goaltending, not to keep them an over team. And it seems to me that hasn't really changed since he's really been there. So as much as it's gotten better for this Florida team, as look at their last few games, still against Colorado, New Jersey, they were some high-scoring games. And it's really disappointing for a team when you can see yourself go out there and score 4 or 5 goals and still end up losing a game. So against this Pittsburgh team here, we're getting still a 6.5 point goal total. I'll go under 6.5 here. I don't usually take too many unders, but I like this one here, guys.
All right, liking the under in this game. And I'll tell you why Pittsburgh still managed to score goals. They've gotten these unheralded performances from your Zach Aston Reeses of the world and your Sam Lafferty's, who's have 5 points, and Joe Blandisi on your fourth line. And guys like this are chipping in, finding the score sheet right now. Teddy Bluger, another one for the Pittsburgh Penguins that's been able to step up. I don't know if that can continue. I look at a guy like Lafferty. He has 5 points already in minimum limited game action for Pittsburgh already since he got called up with the injuries. He only had 39 points in 70 games last year, 13 goals in 70 games last year. So he's going to cool off, I think, at some point. You can't expect this kind of production to continue indefinitely for Sam Lafferty. Give him credit for stepping up, but it's not the kind of profile from him in the minor leagues last year that leads you to believe he's going to keep scoring and producing at this clip indefinitely. So I think some of these rookies that have stepped up, youngsters, depth forwards, they're going to cool off at some point, and hopefully it's tonight because I definitely like Florida, Alex, as well. Andrew liking the under. How about Jimmy? What are you liking with Florida, Pittsburgh?
You guys, I don't know if I'm trying to find it. Is Barkov a go tonight? I know that he didn't skate at the skate, but the coach said he's fine. So do you guys know if he's going?
He's good. He's good to go tonight.
Okay, good. Yep. So then I like Florida. Give me Florida with the money line here. I agree with a lot of what you guys said there right now. And look, Sidney Crosby's been amazing carrying that team through all these injuries, but he can only do so much. And yeah, like you said, Ian, they've had a lot of young guys come in and step up. And I know talking to some of their management and their scouts, they're thrilled with these young guys that have come up from Wilkes-Barre and done the job so far. But, sooner or later it kind of wears off there. And I think, like you guys said with Florida, this is a team that a lot of people had high hopes for, and it would be better defensively. I don't necessarily think it's been all Bobrovsky that's been the problem. I just think that they haven't bought into Quenneville's structure yet. And I think you're starting to see that take shape, though, in the last few games for the Panthers. I think they take one over the Penguins in Florida tonight.
All right, liking the Florida Panthers on the money line as well here, Jimmy, in this game. Next up on the docket, Arizona, New York Rangers. Arizona -115 to -120. Road favorites. The total 6 shaded to the under in this game. This was I thought about this one long and hard, and I said, the Rangers they really are struggling defensively still. And Alexander Georgiev's not the kind of goalie that I've got a full amount of confidence in here. And I said, ever since Arizona lost Hjalmarsson, and I know Jimmy mentioned and harped on this point too, they're not going to be the same defensively. So I decided, you know what, we're going to pull the trigger on over 6 in this game. I don't trust New York defensively right now. Arizona has perked up offensively. You look at the last couple games, the wins against Nashville and Ottawa. Arizona's finally getting some offense going. Phil Kessel's finally coming to life. Some of their bigger some of their bigger forwards, the ones they count on for offense, they're starting to step up and find the back of the net. That's good news. And right now, everybody's finding the back of the net against the New York Rangers, unfortunately. They're still struggling in their own zone. Not so much on the side here in this game. I would lean Arizona. I trust them defensively right now more than New York, but I will be on this game over the total. 6 + 100. Good enough price, good enough number for me to get involved there. Alex, your take on the Coyotes and Rangers tonight?
I'm looking at Arizona here in the spot on the road. And as I mentioned at the top of this broadcast, I do goaltender power rankings for the East and Western Conference. And I just match up who the number 1 and number 2 goalies are and what my numbers, how I rank a drop-off between which goalie starts. So right now, and I updated it, Darcy Kemper is my number 1 guy, as he is the number 1 guy for the Arizona Coyotes. But I only have it as a 15-20 cent drop-off between him and Antti Raanta. Kemper's playing very well. And if you look at just how the structure of this Arizona team is, they added Phil Kessel to get a scoring punch. But this team, they preach positioning and forechecking, and they make a mess out of things in the neutral zone. So this is a speedy New York team. They're going to slow them down a lot, and they're going to create chances, create turnovers in that neutral zone. If they can get some odd man rushes against Georgiev, against this kind of mid-range Ranger defense, they should be able to get goals early and be able to hold on to a lead here in this spot. So the over, I do like the over a little bit. I can see where they would get to trade a little bit, especially if Arizona, they can really start getting their speed going off of those rushes that I mentioned with New York. But I like the Coyotes money line. You can find it around $1.15 or $1.20 in that range. I'll take a shot with Arizona tonight.
Yeah, I definitely lean with Alex's side there, Arizona. I mean, I think they're the team that I trust more defensively. Kemper's played well. I do think the Rangers could find the back of the net as good as Arizona's Kemper's been tonight, because I saw the end of that Vancouver Ranger game when I was watching the NFL Sunday afternoon. I flipped over to the Canuck Ranger game. Rangers were swarming the Canucks in that third period. I mean, if not for Markstrom, if not for missing a wide open net once, which the Rangers did, that would have been tied. Maybe a different result. Vancouver had to hang on for dear life. I think they might have a better chance to bury maybe some of those chances tonight, the Rangers. They certainly generated offense and chances the last game, even though it didn't exactly find the back of the net. Maybe that'll change tonight. Andrew, what's your thoughts on this one? Interesting East-West matchup, Arizona, New York.
It's an interesting game here. I look at this Arizona team. I still haven't quite figured them out. I mean, they're sitting with the 4-2-1 record right now, and the interesting thing about that record is I don't think they've reached their peak yet. I don't think they've reached their full potential. So capable of, but this New York Rangers team, I honestly would say they're under they have against Vancouver. They were for 2 periods, like Ian said, for 2 periods they were dominated, and they decided to show up for that third period. It was a dominant game for Vancouver. Then they played Washington. They lost 5-2. New Jersey, they lost 5-2. Edmonton. I mean, this New York team right now, they're not just losing games. They're losing by margin. I wouldn't want to get in front of them right now. I wouldn't want to back them. If I was to make a play on this game, it would be the over. Both these two teams have proven they can score, but they're also getting scored on. Arizona is definitely no stranger to getting scored on, or being involved in high-scoring games of their own. I mean, they have scored 5 goals against Ottawa their last game, 5 goals against Nashville the game before that, and 4 goals against Winnipeg before that. So, I mean, Winnipeg and Nashville aren't terrible teams. Winnipeg's a great team when they're fully healthy. But Nashville is a team that really takes seriously, and to get a win against them proves to me that this team can be taken seriously. Ultimately, guys, I have no side play on this, but if I was to make a play on it, I would go over the total.
All right, a lean to the over. Jimmy, Arizona Rangers, what do you like? Jimmy, you're muted. Flip the mic on. Turn the fucking mic on, as Fat Joe said. Yeah.
I'm with Andy on this. I really like the over in this game, and I think we're going to see some goals here. Also loving the over 1.5 in the first period here. Kind of a good number to get there. I'm looking at -130 for that, so give me that as well.
All right, Arizona Rangers over 1.5 first period and over 6 for the game from Jimmy. We move on to Vancouver, Detroit. Vancouver -120, road favorites, total 6 shaded to the under. They lost in New Jersey Saturday, but bounced back with the win 3-2 against the Rangers. But as I just mentioned, they had to hang on at the end. Rangers were really pressing late but couldn't tie the game. Now they take on Detroit, a Detroit team that the Canucks took easily care of business against last week in Vancouver. So it's a little revenge spot here for Detroit. I think Vancouver's still playing better hockey and better current form than Detroit right now. We talked about it. Calm down with Detroit early in the season about the top line. People are going to try to check the top line, force other lines to beat you on this Detroit team. And as a result, ever since then, they've struggled to score goals. I think it's a decent little spot. I think the spot's definitely in Detroit's favor here. Vancouver been on the road now for a while, and I don't love the price with Vancouver, so I do think I would lean Vancouver slightly, but I don't love the spot. I don't love the price. We don't have to get involved on a big card like this. So pass for me on this game. Alex, what's your thoughts, Vancouver, Detroit?
A slight lean with Detroit in this spot because this is a bit of a revenge spot. This is kind of the game that really started that tailspin on that Western Canadian road trip. But I like the over 6 here. Like you mentioned, Vancouver, this is their 5th game in 8 days, 4th game in 6 days. So that scheduling spot lends itself to seeing some fatigue. We've seen Detroit get a little bit of rest since that trip. So this is a game where I could see it being goals scored both ways. So definitely give me the over 6 and a slight lean as well to the first period over here because you're only getting only laying $1.25 at that 1.5. So I can see goals early, but the over 6 at even money is what I like a bit more.
All right, Vancouver, Detroit over 6 here for Alex B. Smith. Andrew, Vancouver, Detroit.
I'm going to go ahead and look at Canucks here. Ultimately, when look at this, I can get what anyone wants to say about the road trip spot here, and they could be fatigued for all I know. But when it comes down to it, this is one team is 5-1 in their last 6, one team is 1-5 in their last 6, and again, the price we're getting isn't horrible if you look at those numbers and those stats. And something Ian yesterday on our show, you can bet on them, but you want to bet what's going on now, not what you expect to happen, what you hope to happen.
I think is Andrew cutting out for you guys?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. It's cutting in and out. Keep going.
Okay, I'll try and fix that when I finish here. But on October 6th, Detroit played Dallas. They are plus 145 underdogs. On the 10th, they played Montreal. They are plus 170 underdogs, and they got the job done in both those contests. Those were great wins for the Detroit Red Wings, but I think that moving forward in games that they're playing teams that aren't nearly as slow as they are, or they don't lack the scoring depth, they're going to come out with the loss. Vancouver has way more scores, way more speed, and unless this travel spot is really too much for them to handle, Vancouver should come into this one and score. I want to see Besser continue to roll. I want to see Pettersson continue to roll, and Horvat looked good last game. Since he got that captaincy, he's been looking pretty good for me. So I'll try and fix that connection issue, guys. But I want to make sure you guys count me in for that Vancouver money line.
All right, definitely involve Vancouver official play on the money line -120. How about Jimmy with the Canucks and the Red Wings?
Jeez, me and Andrew agreeing a lot here today. I love the way that the Canucks bounced back in their last game after taking a loss to New Jersey the day before. This has just been one of those teams, and Alex called in the beginning of the season a team to watch, and they've delivered for him in this young season. I love the way they're playing right now. This is going to continue to be a team that really could challenge for a wild card spot. I know it's early to say that now, but I think they really could. They got a good thing going between Demko and Markstrom. So give me the Canucks here. I get what Alex is saying about the revenge factor there for the Wings, but there's something missing with the Wings ever since that game, and I don't think they've found it yet. So I'm going to go with the Canucks money line here.
All right, Jimmy, agreeing with Vancouver here. Money line at -120. Edmonton, Minnesota, next game on the card. We have Minnesota -120, -125. Home favorites, total 6, shaded to the under. Boy, my timing has sucked on this Edmonton team, and I feel I'm putting the kibosh on them again tonight because the 2 times I've backed Edmonton this season have been their 2 losses, against Chicago and against Winnipeg the other night. So I'm worried that, I'm going to bet Edmonton tonight, and here they go. They'll lose tonight against the Minnesota Wild. But I'm still doing it anyway because, to me, this price is a little bit baffling. I know Minnesota had the nice win the other night against Montreal, a desperately needed win, but they eked it out. I still didn't think they played great by any stretch. They were better. They finally got some offense in that game against Montreal, but I didn't think that was a great performance, a dominant performance, a real sign of a turnaround for this Minnesota Wild team. I still think has got a lot of issues. That to me, Edmonton's bounced back each time they've lost. Or the previous time they lost, they bounced back, played better, and won the next game. I think they can do that again tonight. The fact they're getting a plus price is not something I can pass up. Hopefully, third time's the charm for me with the Oilers, and they get a victory for not only themselves but me tonight as well. Give me Edmonton +105. Alex, what's your take? Oilers Wild.
So, like I said, I found a link on a website that talked about the odds for first coach to get fired. The numbers were posted from Bovada, but I also look and search around a couple of the books to see. A lot of offshores will have these odds and props. Bruce Boudreau listed as +280, which I thought was fascinating because we saw rumblings with New Jersey about John Hines possibly getting fired. We saw Tom Fitzgerald, the assistant GM, basically insert himself as an assistant coach and stand around at practice. He's listed at 4-1, but Boudreau is +280 because there's rumblings going on here in town that him and Bill Guerin aren't seeing eye to eye as far as who should be playing nightly in the lineup, which guys should be healthy scratches here or going down to Iowa. And so, I mean, Guerin, this is only a few months on the job, of course, after Paul Fenton was fired over the summer. He wants to kind of instill a change here. And if he's getting pressure from Leopold, the owner, we might see a change sooner than later if Minnesota doesn't start winning. Now, they got the win 4-3 on Sunday against Andrews' Montreal Canadiens in a game that was a weird back and forth kind of tempo game. The Five Stooges, as I like to call them, the Minnesota Wild power play, actually able to score a couple of goals for a change. Finally realizing not to make that extra pass and actually shoot at the net. So if they can keep doing that, that's obviously a good sign for them. But I just don't trust them to do that against the Edmonton team. Has a lot of speed. We're seeing James Neal, the veteran acquisition, really chipping in with some goals, helping out along with McDavid and Draisaitl. Oscar Klefbom's got a goal and 8 assists, so they're getting some decent production from the point on the blue line. Mikko Koskinen not started tonight, unfortunately. He's been stellar in that so far, but it's Mike Smith. Mike Smith's numbers a little shaky against Minnesota, 6-12-1 overall, but those are a lot of those days were with his time in Tampa Bay, team historically struggling here in Minnesota, and Arizona as well, some bad teams. So overall, the numbers for me at a plus price, I have to go with Edmonton here. This is a complete dumpster fire down the street here on West 7th Street with the Minnesota Wild, and things might get worse before they get better, especially if they have to make a coaching change.
Yeah, and of course Bruce Boudreau's on that short list of coaches that's definitely feeling the hot seat right now with this Minnesota team. And it could be bad. What bad news for Minnesota potentially coming into this game is that Draisaitl has gone pointless in 3 of his last 4 games. Yeah, that's going to go on forever. So yeah, this might be the night that maybe you don't want to face Connor McDizzle. He might want to get back on the score sheet for sure. Andrew, what's your take on Edmonton taking on Minnesota?
How's the connection here? Can you guys hear me all right?
Good now. All good now.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, look, I mean, I've talked about looking at teams and how they're currently playing their current form, but at the same time, I've also talked about records and overall standings. 7-1-1 for this Oilers team, 2-6-0 for the Minnesota Wild. Yet earlier on this morning, I locked in the Edmonton Oilers plus 110 on the money line. I mean, is that a joke? I just don't get why that's being offered to me. It was kind of shocking. Ultimately, when you see McDavid and Draisaitl having a little bit of help from their secondary scoring, you know this team is looking outstanding. But what's not being talked about, guys, is the ability for Koskinen and Smith to play some great goaltending or to show some great goaltending. That hasn't really been talked about enough. That has been a huge, huge key. I mean, I think we can look back to last year. I don't want to diss Talbot here, but a lot of times where the Oilers were involved in games, they were really close, 1-goal games, and their goaltending and defense let them down. So sometimes it's the defenseman, but sometimes ultimately you need your goaltender to stand on his head. That's what the whole team is saying right now. Sometimes you need your goalie to come up big. Sometimes you need your defenseman to make a big play. And that's what this Oilers squad is doing right now. They're making big plays when they need to. The only thing that really bothers me with this Edmonton team right now is I haven't really seen them play too many fantastic teams. They've played some pretty good teams. They have some decent wins under their belt. But I want them to keep racking these wins up so that way when they do play the high end teams and the big boys, they can look good or have a little bit of wiggle room to make those mistakes. But ultimately, the only wins in the season right now for the Minnesota Wild are Ottawa and the Montreal Canadiens. And that Montreal Canadiens win, like Alex said, was a very, very weird game. I watched that full game. It was a back and forth, little defense in that one, a lot of weird goals scored. And keep in mind, Montreal just beat them 4-0 just 3 nights before that. So a good spot for Minnesota at home to get things done, and they got the job done. But really, can we all think that this Minnesota team is going to build off that? What do they have to build from? I don't think that's going to really be a spark. I see Alex shaking his head. It feels good for my bet. As you can tell, I'm on Edmonton here, plus 110, or the best price available.
Yeah, someone in the chat asking Nebraska, Edmonton team total over 2.5. Wouldn't talk you out of it. I lean that way. It makes sense, but I don't like the price either. I'm with Alex. I don't love the price there on that one, but they probably have a good chance to get 3 or more on the board. Jimmy, your take on the Oilers-Wild matchup?
I don't like this game at all, guys. I mean, you look at it, did Minnesota finally get something going the other day? You got to ask yourself that. But then as Andrew just pointed out, look at the teams they've beaten. I mean, there's some AHL teams that could beat the Ottawa Senators. So I'm not knocking the Montreal Canadiens. I think that's a quality win for them there. Keith Kincaid played very well for the Canadiens. So for them to still come out with the win, I thought was a gutsy win. And it's a win they needed, right? And they walked the walk after talking the talk, especially Jason Zucker. But I don't see this team having the ability to continue to build momentum. And that being said, on the flip side, Edmonton's given me some question marks lately, and I think one of them, like you said, Ian, is the goaltending there. I think the defense has been a little shoddy too. So I'm just going to pass in this game, guys.
Yeah, we'll see. Is Edmonton playing over their head early? Are they due for some regression, a little correction? We'll see. That being said, this is a winnable game still for them. I could see if they're playing a pretty good hockey team, them being in tough tonight to keep this nice little run going. But this is a manageable team, this Minnesota team. I've got them in terms of my own power rankings in the NHL, like 4th worst team in the league right now. Like that's how low I am on Minnesota. I think this is a game Edmonton can still take care of business. And the fact now that McDavid's gone a few games where he's been a little quiet could be bad news for the Wild tonight because that's not going to go on indefinitely. LA Winnipeg next game. Winnipeg minus 145 to minus 150. Home favorites, total 6 shaded to the over. The line's creeping up here on Winnipeg, so I'm going to change my bet in this game from Winnipeg money line to Winnipeg in regulation at plus 100 instead in this game. I flat out do not trust the LA Kings to just all of a sudden get it going because they shut out Calgary on Saturday. It was a once-in-a-lifetime good performance from Jonathan Quick. The defense was still not great, but they got some great goaltending from Quick. Calgary was brutal in that game. So brutal, Bill Peters called a timeout just to yell at his team on the bench. I mean, that's how bad that game was for Calgary against LA. I think Winnipeg, they've had tough times, tough sledding with the absences on the defense and the blue line, as we've well documented that Bufflin, Myers, and Trouba are all with other teams. Nathan Beaulieu's injured, and Anthony Potato hurt, but they got a much better defensive performance. Paul Maurice said they committed to team defense in that win Sunday night against the Edmonton Oilers, a tight to the vest 1-0 win for the Winnipeg Jets in that game. I think that's a positive sign, at least for this group. And come on, let's be honest. They've faced some good offensive teams. LA Kings aren't one of them. I know they put up 4 goals. They were all off Calgary mistakes with the puck. I think Winnipeg keeps that little momentum they got from that win against Edmonton. So Jets, for me, in regulation at plus 100. Alex, what's your thoughts with the Kings and the Jets?
I'm playing the first period over here. It's 1.5. You're laying $1.45. It's a bit steep, but here's my thought process on it. You got an LA Kings team. They're 6-2 to the first period over, 3-0 on the road. The biggest thing they've tried to preach is trying to get early starts, fast starts on teams. Same thing with Winnipeg. You got any team that's coming off of a game where it was scoreless after 60 minutes. Obviously, the mantra in the locker room is going to be, we got to start early. We got to get on the board quick. And this will be the team to do it. This is a LA team that has given up 23 goals in the last 6 games combined. So I expect to see some goals, some scoring early here between these two teams. As far as the side goes, yeah, you can't trust LA, but there's no way in the world I'm taking Winnipeg laying a price. Even that even money in regulation seems a bit skeptical to me. It wouldn't be shocked if this game goes in the OT, so that would kind of crush that bet too. So nothing on the side, but definitely the first period over, 1.5 minus $1.45.
All right, 1.5 over 1.5 minus 145 first period. Yeah, I'm doing a leap of faith. I haven't bet the Jets once this season from a side perspective. This is it because they're at home. This is LA, should be able to handle it. But again, we are talking about a young, depleted defense. Can they handle the Kings? Is the question. Andrew, your take on LA Winnipeg?
I'll tell you what, guys. I feel like we should all order some T-shirts, and the T-shirts should just say "Fade LA" on it with the big LA logo, because that's what I feel like doing every single night when I see a matchup like this. It doesn't really bother me at all from the performance we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets so far this season. We've talked about their defensive core, that it was banged up and different things they've gone through, but I'll say the same thing I've been saying about this Jets team different times, and I'll be the first one to say I got burnt a few times on it, but I'll go back to the well here. Dangerous. They've got some guys. Patrick Laine is having one of his best starts to a season so far, and just day to day, night to night, he's playing more consistent hockey than he ever has, more 200-foot hockey than we've ever seen him play. And we're seeing a guy like Ehlers come to life. You can always count on Scheifele to get the job done. Well, I just can't trust LA right now. This is a typical thing, guys. They're going to go out there and put a performance up just like that against Calgary. And I get they can come out here tonight, absolutely put up a flat spot, a big stinker, and nobody thinks twice about it. As long as LA gets a random little win every now and then, nobody wants to crap on them. So this is the best spot here to grab them. A lot of times people will tell you, don't step in front of a team after they got out of a slump. Don't step in front of a team, after they just beat their rival. This isn't a spot where you can step in front of them. The LA Kings got a win. It's a 1 in a million. They shut down the Calgary Flames. This is a spot here to say, hey, look, I woke up today, got minus 137 with a Winnipeg money line. It's Christmas morning for me.
All right, Christmas morning in October for Andrew McGinnis with Winnipeg
and NBA starting.
And NBA starting too. Yes, absolutely. And the way I look at it, what are the teams that have killed Winnipeg's defense this year? Teams with a good power play. That's not LA. They were 0 for 19 going into the last power play. 0 for 19 streak. It finally got snapped against Calgary. They finally got a power play goal. But prior to that game, 0 for 19 on the power play. Yeah, Winnipeg's PK has suffered. I don't know if LA's the team to take advantage of it. Jimmy, your thoughts on the Kings and Jets?
I'm with you on this. I like that regulation win for the Winnipeg Jets here. And, yeah, you know what? It's interesting, Andrew, because you talk about don't get in front of a team when they snap a losing streak. And we were just talking about that with Minnesota, right? But, I mean, both Minnesota and LA just don't have the feel of the type of teams that can now put together some momentum. It's too bad. I wish they did. But I just think right now those teams are a mess. And I think, if you look at Winnipeg in the last few games, guys, they've been doing a lot of good things there, and Patrick Laney isn't exactly having the offensive year that everyone wants him to have right now, but I think he's playing a great 200-foot game, and I think in the long run, that's a much better thing for the Winnipeg Jets because that's going to help when they get down to crunch time and then you get into the playoffs if they make it there. So I like the Jets in this one in regulation.
Right, also on Jets in regulation plus 100. On we go to Anaheim, Nashville. We've got Nashville laying minus 160, total 5.5. It's the lowest total on the board tonight. 5.5 shaded to the under, minus 120. And I'm going to do something I'll rarely do this season, and that's bet an Anaheim game over the total. But I'm doing it tonight in this one with the Ducks and the Predators. It's over 5.5. It's right around even money. It's a Nashville team that's cashed 7 overs and just 1 under in their first 8 games this season. You look at the last 2 meetings in Nashville in Music City between the Ducks and Predators, 5-2, 6-3. Actually higher scoring games between these two teams. And Anaheim, well, they got shut down in their last game, but prior to that, finding some offense in the 3 wins before that. All 3 of those games went over the total. 3 of the last 4 for Anaheim have gone over the total. No Philip Forsberg. That's definitely a concern for Nashville tonight, not having him in that lineup. But they've had other guys step up. They've had their second line produce. Their third line with Colton Sissons on it has been really solid in terms of giving them some punch offensively. Not easy to score against Anaheim, and John Gibson, certainly respect the hell out of him. But on the road against a Nashville team that, especially at home, they've scored goals in bunches here at Bridgestone Arena this season in their home rink. Nashville's really thrived offensively playing on home ice this season. And again, we've got 5.5 at even money, cheap total these days in 2019 NHL with a history where 2 of the last 3 meetings in Nashville with these 2 teams has gone over the total. So yeah, give me Ducks Predators over 5.5. You're not going to get 5.5 very often with Nashville. For a team that's cashed 7 overs, just 1 under. That's the way I'm going on this one. Alex, what do you got for Anaheim, Nashville?
This is a pass for me, but I'm leaning with the under 5.5 here. You got Pekka Rinne at 17-7-6 lifetime against Anaheim with a 2.29 goals against, a 920 save percentage, and 3 shutouts in his career. You got John Gibson, who's absolutely lights out, a guy who can steal you a game. And you look at this is the beginning of a 4-game road trip for Anaheim. I circled this one because of the travel spots that they have are interesting. After this game, they go to Dallas, then they have to go on the altitude to Denver, then they have to go to Vegas, and then after that they go back home. So could be a really rough spot for Anaheim down the stretch. Tonight might be the best game they play in the next week and a half. So I would lean with Anaheim, and I would lean with the under. Nothing official on those, but this is definitely a game worth watching, and I'll be following Anaheim pretty much the next several games to see what comes from this. But this could be an absolute goaltender duo, a duel tonight where we might only see a few goals. So I'm really skeptical with that 5, even that 5.5 number. I would lean with that under.
Yeah, definitely. It's a leap of faith a little bit for me. No question. Anaheim's not a team I'm saying I'm going to bet you over the total a lot this year, but I'm going to make an exception tonight. Andrew, what's your thoughts on Ducks Preds?
I'm on the same play as you. I'm on the over 5.5. If you look at what Anaheim's done so far this year, they've actually shocked us quite a bit here. They've been able to score. They've been involved in a couple of high-scoring games. We've seen some production out of them. And Nashville, it goes without saying, this is a team that's really shocked me this year. I didn't like betting them over the total at all last season, and I will not hesitate to do that this year. And like you said, even without a couple guys out, it's always been next man up right now with this Nashville team. They've got about 6, 7, 8 guys that are scoring for them. And you got to love that. You got to love when you don't know who's going to come out there. But it's like Ian said, I respect the hell out of John Gibson, but it is a 5.5 total. I think even with him in nets, even with the Anaheim Ducks being involved in this total here, for the time being, I hope I can catch them in a spot where they're going to get a few for me. I trust Nashville to score here. I have Nashville to win the game, but the price is too horrid for me to grab. So I'm on the over 5.5 for an official play for me tonight.
All right, 5.5 as well with the over for Andrew. Jimmy, what do you got for this one?
Man, we are split right down the middle, guys. I'm with Alex here. I like the under, and I know Nashville's been one of, if not the best over teams going thus far this year. But still, I just think that, with Gibson between the pipes there, he's been so great for them. And then, you look at Rennie on the other side there too. These goalies, I just know, because I was one, and I know talking to other goalies and just covering the game, they get psyched for matchups like this. This is a pride thing now. When you go against elite goalie versus elite goalie, those guys want to win that individually too. They obviously they're team first guys, but they take a lot of pride in beating another quality goalie. And I think right now Gibson is really on a mission after what happened last year when he got hurt. He's trying to solidify that, hey, if I hadn't gotten injured last year, I would have won the Vezina. I would have come close to doing it. So I really think that we're going to get a goaltending duel there, and I like the under in this game.
All right, under 5.5. So I like that. We don't have games like this very often where it's 2 on the liking the under, or at least leaning toward the under. Alex is just leaning toward the under, and then 2 liking the over. So guaranteed winner in this game. Yeah, I love it. But it means a guaranteed winner on the Ice Guys. Someone's going to win here in this game. I love that. At least some of them. One of us is going to come out smelling good and looking good after this game. That's what I love about it. Next up, we've got Vegas, Chicago. Vegas minus 120 to minus 125. Total 6.5 shaded to the under. Unfortunately for our pal Alex, I'm on the Knights here tonight at about minus 120 to minus 125. It's back-to-back on the road. I get it, but it's early in the road trip still for this Vegas team. It's a Vegas team that's coming off a game that they played awful last night. I know Oscar, the safety dance, was not great in that last night for the Golden Knights, but they didn't play great in front of him either. He was not good, but they didn't play great in front of him. Gerard Gallant was very upset before the game, or after the game, I should say, about his team's performance going into that one. So I think they bounce back tonight. Fleury and net, who's been absolutely sensational. I think it favors Vegas, and Alex will speak to this too. Vegas has owned Chicago. I mean, they've completely dominated the Blackhawks. So unfortunately for Chicago, I like the way they're playing. They're playing a little bit better lately. I think wrong team, wrong place, wrong time tonight. Vegas for me at minus 120. Alex, what's your thoughts on this one with your Blackhawks?
Yeah, this has been, and I'll rant about it more if this game comes to the fruition at which it will, which is I think Vegas will win. This has been a horrible home trip for the Hawks. I mean, coming back from the Czech Republic opener, knowing that you have 7 games at home, you got to play a lot better than this to start the year. And it's just been completely flat right now. Now you're going to get a pissed off Vegas team coming in. So they've dominated you all time, 6-0, not only straight up, but 6-0 to the over as well. Robin Lehner's in net, which I'm grateful for. Otherwise, this probably would be I'd probably be doubling up on Vegas if it was Crawford. But I'm playing Vegas here. This is just a spot where the offense isn't clicking. I don't know. It's funny. We talked about Coach Q and his line blender for years, and how now all of a sudden Collins kind of keeping things status quo, not moving guys around enough. I think he needs to shake some things up a little bit with these lines. Maybe stack that top line up, move Kane up, or to brink it up with Taves, get some offensive spark going, because you have the speed to match Vegas tonight for sure. And if Lehner gives you some solid goaltending, which I expect, then this shouldn't be like a blowout game for Vegas is what I'm saying. This should be a tougher battle, but just the momentum with Vegas, Fleury back in net now, there's no way I can go against the Golden Knights here. So I got to go with Vegas laying the price as an official play.
All right, official play Vegas minus 120, short road favorites. Andrew, are you involved with the Golden Knights Blackhawks?
I'm not involved with it, guys, but that was an absolute spanking last night. That was a terrible spot there for the Vegas Golden Knights. I was impressed with the job the Philadelphia Flyers did for just keep on adding to that score. It wasn't just a 2-0 quiet win. They put on last night. They showed what they could do. They showed how they could score. It's an issue, guys. I mean, this Vegas team cannot win, cannot look good when they have a backup tendy in nets, even if it's a good performance. I've seen on numerous occasions where Malcolm Subban had a good game and the Vegas Golden Knights still blew the game for him. So look, I understand Flower is a great goalie and you're going to be great when you have him behind you, but ultimately you got to show up for your team every single night. You got to show up for him when no matter who's behind you in nets, and they haven't done that yet so far. So I would expect a bounce back spot there. All
right, Jimmy, Vegas, Chicago.
Guys, I'm staying away from this game. I have no clue with the way it's going there. I mean, yeah, that was ugly for Vegas last night. You would think they're going to come in revved up, and I see the reasoning in that. I think they'll definitely want to redeem themselves, but this is just kind of a Jekyll and Hyde game on both sides, so I'm going to stay away.
All right, passing on the Vegas and Chicago game. So it's Alex and I on Vegas in that one. Pass for Andrew, pass for Jimmy. On we go. Final game of this Tuesday card. It's Washington taking on Calgary. We've got Calgary minus 120, total 6.5, shaded to the under. And this is a pretty big Tuesday card. I'm realizing this. This will be my 9th play on this card. But it's just one of those days. There's a lot that stands out. Nothing a best bet for me, by the way. These are all going to be one unit. I like a lot. I don't love anything. So that's the way I'm going. It's all one unit. And I'm on Washington here, plus 106. They're the better of these two teams as far as I'm concerned. I don't like what I'm seeing out of Calgary. Okay, Calgary might be ticked after losing to LA the way they did. And they did actually bounce back from that with the eking out a win against Anaheim the very next night. But I'm not impressed with the Flames. I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't think they're playing all that great. I think defensively they've had breakdowns. They've coughed up the puck. There's been miscues. I think offensively they've been hit or miss. I don't trust Riddick. I don't trust Talbot. It will be Talbot tonight. Talbot's actually played a little better lately, but I don't trust him here against Washington. And don't forget, all those years with the Rangers, Washington saw him a lot. And I don't think he played very well, if I'm not mistaken, historically against Washington. Back in those days, I don't think Talbot had a great success rate against this Capitals team. So I'm looking at a situation here where I think Calgary is definitely something of a bit of a, not a fraud, but I don't trust them. And I certainly don't trust them as favorites here. It is concerning somewhat that Tom Wilson's a game-time decision. He's been a big part of this team, no question. But I still like Washington regardless here. And they've been great on the road. Washington's 4-1 on the road this season. The only loss was in Nashville, 6-5, and they could have won that game. They had a lead multiple times in that game. Otherwise, they're undefeated on the road. Washington going into this game. They played great away from home. So starting a road trip, I think the focus will be there for the Capitals. Yeah, give me them at a small underdog price here, plus 106. Andrew, what's your thoughts? Washington, Calgary.
I'd like to grab it there, but looking at the way Calgary has flip-flopped all season long, I don't know how they're going to come out here after their last performance. So it's a straight-up pass for me in this one. One thing you got to give credit for this Washington team is, though, they've consistently put up goals. They haven't really had too many flat games to start their year off. So looking at their travel spot here, playing in Calgary, you can probably expect some goals. And with Calgary right now, I haven't really been able to define them as an over or under team. But if I had to, I right now in this game would say over the total with Washington coming to town here. So that'd be my lean here, this one. No real thoughts on the side, though, to be honest. I think Calgary could either bounce back and put forward a great game, or Washington comes in here and absolutely tears them up. And they have to wait a few more minutes here to get another win under their belt. So I'll go with the over 6 as my lean, but no official play for me on this game.
Yeah, Alex had to leave. He's got another booking at 4:15 for another segment, so he's just taken off. He'd only had a lean to Washington himself, not an official play, though. Jimmy, what have you got? Anything official with the Capitals and the Flame?
Well, guys, you know what? I was going to stay away from this game and take a hard pass on it, but then I just saw a tweet from Theo Fleury with a picture with Alexander Ovechkin, and Ovechkin just looking like a young hockey fan like we were one day cheering on. Well, maybe not Andrew. He's a little young for Theo Fleury, but maybe even you, Ian. I don't know how old you are, but I used to love Theo Fleury.
Oh, I remember Theo Fleury.
I
What
got
an
excited
exciting
every
player.
time to see him.
Energetic beyond belief. Yeah.
And Ovechkin, he just had that look in his eyes, and I'm like, uh-oh. I think Theo just got that goal-scoring urge in him. So I'm going to take a lean here towards the Capitals here on the money line.
Just a lean for Washington. Yeah, I just think, I'm not super high on Washington. It's just that I like this price. They're playing well. They're playing well on the road, 4 wins in 5 road games this year. And I just favor them a little bit more. And I think I trust their offense a little bit more than I trust Calgary's right now.
And another thing with Ovechkin, too, guys, if you notice, I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I'd be willing to bet I'm right on this, is he gets psyched to play in those Canadian cities. Like, he loves going into cities where hockey's king and where everyone's really into it, and he feeds off those crowds. I just know from when I lived in Montreal, he goes into the Bell Center and absolutely owns the Canadians every time. So he loves those type of games up in Canada. So I think he might be in for a big game.
Yeah, he plays well in Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, all those places. So there you go. Andrew, of course, he's just taken off as well. He's got to go. It's the way it goes. We got a longer show than normal today with 10 games. But
I got to do another show too.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we'll recap everybody's card. I know Alex and Andrew had to leave, but that's okay. We'll recap their cards. They're in with all their plays right now. For Alex, he's on LA Winnipeg over 1.5 minus 145 first period. Vancouver Detroit over 6 minus 105. Arizona minus 115. Florida in regulation plus 105. Buffalo minus 110. Toronto Boston over 6.5 minus 110. That's Alex B. Smith's Tuesday night card. Andrew has Buffalo minus 110. Vancouver minus 120. Edmonton plus 105. Winnipeg minus 137. Anaheim, Nashville over 5.5 plus 100. Jimmy Murphy, he's got Boston in regulation minus 115. Buffalo puck line minus 1.5 plus 215. Florida minus 132. Arizona Rangers over 6 plus 100. And Arizona Rangers over 1.5 minus 130 first period. Winnipeg in regulation plus 100. Anaheim, Nashville under 5.5 minus 120. Jimmy, you got a best bet from that group?
I'm going to go with that Sabres puck line.
All right, for the big payout. Again, that's going to be 4.3 units if that cashes in as a 2-unit best bet. For me, lots of higher volume than normal. 9 games, 9 bets, but all 1 unit. No best bet for me on this card. My plays as follows: Toronto, Boston over 6.5 minus 110. Trying to go with Michael Hutchinson as the automatic over once again. Buffalo minus 110. Florida minus 132, Arizona, New York Rangers over 6 plus 100, Edmonton plus 105, Winnipeg in regulation plus 100, Anaheim, Nashville over 5.5 plus 100, Vegas minus 120, and Washington plus 106. That's going to wrap up the show. Guys, thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. Over 40 people between the people that are subscribed with us at www.patreon.com/iceguys and the people that have tuned in for this free edition, this free skate episode of the Ice Guys. We really do appreciate it. Oh, I should mention Alex's best bet is Edmonton. He does have a best bet. It's Edmonton plus 105. That is Alex's best bet. And Andrew's best bet is Vancouver money line minus 120. So best bet for Andrew, Vancouver. Best bet for Alex, Edmonton on the Tuesday night card. Again, best bet, in case you're new to the Ice Guys, is 2 units. Everything else is 1 unit. That's the way we grade the plays for the Patreon NHL Ice Guys. But great show. Again, if you're interested in subscribing and you're not a subscriber right now, you know where to find us. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. It's $10 a month. It's cheaper than newspaper and coffee these days, it seems, to get 7 days a week of the best NHL betting coverage. Yeah, exactly. The best online subscription to newspaper publications, I should say. But definitely, I mean, we're here 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern, and we're breaking down every single game throughout the season. So if you wish to subscribe and join the Patreon NHL Ice Guys and lace up the skates with us all season long, go to patreon.com/Ice Guys. For Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Enjoy your Tuesday night. Good luck with all of your wagers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow on the Ice Guys. Have a good